I feel you, podcaster. Podcasting can be a real struggle because we don't see that instant gratification that we want to see or that we may see on a different platform and we're like, nobody's listening. I can almost guarantee you that someone is listening and you're making an impact, and it really does take time. But if you are spreading yourself so thin, we've been talking about this the last few episodes, spreading yourself too thin, you're not going to make an impact. You're not going to make the impact come. You're not going to make it to that next level. So today I want to give you 5 quick tips to help you in 2024 get to that next level of podcast success that you desired. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Cure for Pod Fade. I am so excited you found your way here because that means you know how powerful podcasting can be. You are ready to build a legacy with your unique story, your message, and your offer, but you're getting a little overwhelmed. You're feeling frustrated, you're feeling stuck. You just don't know how to grow your show, find a new audience, and make some money. Podcasting can be the ticket to the life of your dreams, and it doesn't have to be as hard as you think. We're talking about all the ingredients it takes to be a successful, profitable podcaster without that icky overwhelm, because you are too magical to join the 85% plus club that pod fades away. I'm your host, Jen Dragonette, so let's make podcasting easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, we love quick tips. We want our podcasts to make an impact. You're still here in 2024, but you know you cannot keep doing the same thing that you are doing over and over again. You know that your story can make an impact, and that's what we're all about over here at the Cure for Pod Fade, is your story is someone's life raft, right? I wrote the book literally called that. Your story is someone's life raft. But what I want to say is, first, you know that it's coming. This podcast is getting an upgrade, and it's going to be your podcast as someone's life raft, because it truly is. It feels like it's not because your numbers aren't growing. It takes a little longer to get reach. Social media, there's more of that potential to go viral. But here's the thing. If you are creating content that connects with your clients, connects with your listener, connects with somebody, you're making an impact. And as one of my clients and mentors, Tiffany Carter from the Project Meet with Tiffany Carter podcast, always says, is that we only need a micro slice of the pie to be millionaires. We only need a micro slice of the pie to create that 6 figures. Not that we're just saying it's all about the money, but let's be real. We want to make an impact and we want to make that income. So when you are starting to build out your episodes and you're starting to figure out, oh my goodness, this is getting hard, this is getting complicated, I'm doing all the things, I'm showing on all the platforms, we fade out. The quick tips, you want to know the quick 5 tips? One is, I want you to start looking at those catchy hooks. Are you someone who is just putting out your standard intro? If you don't know what that is, that's that piece that's like, hey, welcome to your podcast. I'm your host. Most of the time it has music. If you are starting out every episode with that, you are missing the mark and you are missing out on that prime opportunity to get people to keep listening to your show. So on your 2024 goals list, it might be to do a little more editing and add that catchy hook. People always talk about it in social media land, but I don't hear it talked about nearly enough in podcast land. So for me, I try to train my clients that it's a catchy hook, then that standard intro, then your episode. If you're going to put a commercial, I say hook, intro, commercial, go into it, because people might only listen to the first 5 to 10 minutes. So let's get your commercial in there. But what I really want you to do is I want you to start strong. This is tip number 1. Start strong. Craft that opening that sets the tone of your episode, that sets up the story, that hooks your listener, that says, oh my goodness. So this is that piece. This is that hook, that piece before your intro. Just like, hey, podcaster, I see you over there struggling, ready to give up. What if I could give you 5 quick tips that you could tweak inside your episode so that you can start seeing growth and you can start seeing listener retention. Do you need those? I got you. Join me. Roll into the intro. But you gotta capture them from the beginning. When I hear a podcast that opens us up and it's like, especially in interview shows, like if you're watching me on YouTube, you see my eyes roll. I'm just like, oh my goodness, please stop doing this. You're like, hey, I want to welcome this person to the show. Here's their accolades. Here's their bio. What's your favorite potato chip? Tell me about yourself. Like, your listeners probably don't care. Maybe if you're going to roll in, be like, I'm talking to Jen Dragonette. She is a podcast planning and development strategist. And then go into like what your topic is. You gotta get to your meat and potatoes faster than because nobody really cares. You can add more storytelling and personalization and all that stuff into your podcast episode. But try to keep that first 5 minutes extra clean, extra catchy, and especially your hook in the beginning. Your hooks can be 2 sentences long, but capture them. Get them to want to listen. If they're rolling up on your standard intro every single time, so many people will skip by, especially if they're a new listener and they haven't bought into You're Worth the Time. Get something in front of that intro that makes them say, hey, I want to do this. I was just doing a YouTube training with my new YouTube mentor. And he's like, you know, those videos that it's like, the last one is really going to blow your mind. And you watch it and it's like all these different clips. And the last one is supposed to blow your mind and it doesn't. But you watched till the end. That's what we want. But we want to satisfy the person in the end. We don't want it to leave them high and dry. So tip number 2, again, I want you to start being relatable. So many people, I mean, and if you're in the audience that needs just straightforward facts and not to be relatable and it's like fact, great. Most people who listen to The Cure for Pod Fade, that's not you. You need to share personal stories that relate with your audience. When you're authentic, it builds more trust. Just like the last few episodes, I've been sharing with you my struggle. Like, I love The Cure for Pod Fade, but there is something missing in it. Cure for Pod Fade has helped me connect with so many people, but there is something freaking missing. And it's that piece of me that's the storytelling aspect, that's the connection aspect of it. I love strategy. I will teach you strategy. I will continue to bring you how to grow. But I want to really focus on with a small audience, if you are changing 1 to 2 people's lives with a huge impact, how does that make you feel? Because in the beginning, and until you start focusing on that serving where your podcast is growing and bringing in more income, you've got to think of your podcast as this place to build trust. That know, like, and trust factor, because you are being intimate with somebody in their ear while they're doing something. Hello, my shower listeners. That's me too. I love listening to podcasts in the shower. But the more you can relate to someone, the easier it is to build trust and for people to understand, hey, you've been through this, therefore I know how to get through this from a self view plus my training. You know, like for me, I have a master's degree in marketing. I have all of these different certifications in mindset work and moving through the garbage and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm a podcaster. I listened to a podcast that saved my life. I had a guest come on my show. I've networked. I've built an entire business off of the network that I have built through podcasting. I have relatability, but I was where you are. I had no downloads. I wanted to give up. I was not feeling worthy of the air I was breathing. I didn't know if I was meant to be on this planet. Like, start talking about your authentic stories. You're not sharing to be a sob story. You're sharing to be a beacon of hope. Again, that life raft. I wrote the damn book. Your story is someone's life raft. Be that life raft through stories. And that's tip number 2. Bring stories that your audience can relate to. Number 3, create suspense. This means you can start teasing upcoming episodes. Leave people on a cliffhangers. Start, if you are somebody who pre-plans and batches, which thank God There's people out there like that. I'm really bad at pre-planning and batch recording. I should get better at it, but I don't. But if you can start teasing your next episode as you're going. Pull out little snippets of the story. Like, oh my goodness, I had brought on a guest and we were talking and I was in this emphasis of, is it time for me to exit this planet? But I'll tell you about that story next week. Create intriguing pieces to get people to come back and want more. Remember to also refer back to old episodes and put those into your show description, quote unquote show notes, so that people will go back. Again, podcasting is evergreen, so we have to start looking at this differently than social media. It lasts for a lifetime. Share ahead, share behind, and just leave people that little bit of suspense. Tip number 4, get to know your audience. So many of my clients come in and they're like, oh, I'm just talking about this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, great. They're giving me 60 minutes of audio for a busy mom who barely has time to shower and poop by themselves. And that's when they're listening to the show and they've got 15 to 20 minutes to listen to a show and you're giving them a 60-minute show. Know your audience. What are their interests? How long can they pay attention? There's certain words. This is also where you dig into that juicy SEO. Remember, audience first, content that serves that audience. Tip number 5 is I want you to end with an impact. Make sure that your story leaves that little impression, meaning that you are serving. That episode has served. Did you help them take a micro step forward, a baby step forward, one big giant leap forward? Did you leave a story that made them walk away and say, hey, Jen really knew what felt me, really knew what I was thinking, really knew what I needed. Now I don't feel so alone. What was the impact you wanted to leave with the episode? You need to think about that stuff when you create it. That's what makes those stories stick. I love that book. If you haven't read it, Stories That Stick. Great book. Great book. But it's true. You were more likely to buy the same product from somebody that's created an impact on you. And most of the time that's with a relatable story. Oh my gosh, she understands what I'm going through. I feel that, whatever it is. So that is 5 semi-quick tips and how to incorporate some storytelling, how to craft that opening to get you to elevate your podcasting game. Because I want 2024 to be the year that you weren't just like, I podcasted for 10 people. And I'm not okay with that anymore, so I quit. I podcasted for 100 people. I'm not okay with that, so I quit. 2024, I want you to actually make the impact that you desire with your podcast. And that's why as this podcast starts rolling into 2024, it's so weird to say that still, you will be seeing a name change. And as of right now, it's going to be Your Podcast is Someone's Life Raft to go into my life's mission. But you will still get strategy. You will still get storytelling tips. You'll still get how to build and grow and make money from your show. But I really want to dive into this interconnection inward piece, this piece that your podcast can help someone else make an impact, can help yourself open up. Because that's one of the things that it's been for me. It's allowed me to create a network. It's allowed me to feel different about myself. It's allowed me to confidently show up and talk about all the weird things and be imperfect. And it's allowed me a space to kind of rediscover myself. And that's what I love when I work with clients. And it's like we change their podcast 5 different times in a year. And it normally would probably drive a manager, producer, strategist crazy. But it's like you get to fall in love with pieces of yourself that you're hiding from social media people. And it's just a beautiful thing. So, podcaster, I love you. I want 2024 to be your year. And go out and make today amazing because you are worthy, you are wonderful, and your story deserves a microphone because your story is someone's life raft. Your gifts, your magics, your offer is going to help somebody out of that nasty ass ocean that is just they're drowning in. Let yourself be that life raft. Somebody gave you a life raft to get you to where you are. I want you to be that for someone else. So, make today amazing, and I will see you next week.